Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. And boy, do we have a good one today. Took me a little while to figure out what it was because, as usual, I didn't do enough background. But T. Shane Johnson is with us today. Going to talk about, amongst other things, raising raising coffee. And since the last week, the coffee reached its all-time high. Uh, it's kind of a pretty good topic to talk about today. Welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me. We appreciate always the opportunity to be able to share our story on platforms like yours.
Well, for our own first question is always tell us a little bit about your background. And I see you got the U.S. Marine flag over there, um, which for me is always I often said the only thing I wish I had done was go through Marine training, but they turned me down when I was
Yeah.
17. Um, and, uh, Background, then tell us what you're doing, particularly at the coffee end, and finally give us a place people can learn more.
Yes, sir. Well, yeah. So I'm originally from Florida. I grew up in a small town called Arcadia. A lot of people don't realize Florida is a cow town and orange groves, but if you kind of take Florida and you go right down the middle, that's pretty much it. Horses, orange groves, and cattle. My family was cattle ranchers. We owned a 365-acre Beefmaster cattle ranch, and so we grew up out in the middle of nowhere, basically working cows. Hard manual labor all day, every day. Waking up at the crack of dawn and staying pretty busy with trying to make sure that the ranch was there. We were land rich, but asset poor in the sense of not really having a lot of money. But we had a beautiful piece of property, and the family worked on it and got a lot of really great values from it. But like a lot of us that joined the military, we wanted something a little different. College was not in the cards for me. I was a little naive to understand kind of how it works. And funny being older now, looking back on it, maybe would have made a couple of different changes, but I had the opportunity to be a part of the Marine Corps. They opened the doors for me, and then I earned the title of being a United States Marine. Left right out of high school about 3 days after, and joined the Marine Corps, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I ended up just being an infantry guy. I was with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, and 29 Palms. I joined in '98 and was spent about a year and a half with that unit. I came back from deployment. Spent about another year and a half with 1st Reconnaissance Battalion in Camp Pendleton, Camp Margarita. During that time, 9/11 happened, so there was quite a bit going on. A lot of changes, a lot of things. Obviously, most people were, aware or part of that experience. Um, After my deployment of coming back, when I was with 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, I was targeted by MS-13 gang members as part of a gang initiation, and they chased me down with a car. I was riding on a motorcycle and hit me. I caught the corner of a brick house at 45 miles an hour. They got out and beat me and robbed me and left me for dead. Nobody would help me because of the gang association. I ended up walking 2 blocks to a fire station. Fast forward, I flatlined out 3 times, broke every bone in my upper body. All of my major organs were lacerated. Spent probably almost a year in the hospital learning how to walk, talk, and breathe again. Fortunately, by the grace of God, I rehabbed significantly well, all the way to the point to where I was fully operational back with my unit again. At that time, it was about time for me to get out of the Marine Corps. So I got out of the Marine Corps, did what a lot of Marines do, a lot of service members do, tried to attempt to go to college again, thinking that was going to work for me. Unfortunately, it did not pan out for me as well. It just was not my thing. Somehow I ended up in finance and mortgage banking and became part of that sector. By the time I was 26, I had built my own mortgage company. We were doing about $300 million in sales. I learned to be a really great salesperson. I was a horrible entrepreneur. Uh, and as I kind of went through that process of learning, 2008 happened, which was recession during that time, and it significantly impacted the mortgage industry to the point to where our entire industry just kind of dissipated. It didn't exist. And I lost everything. And then at that time, a combination of a couple different factors between being homeless, PTSD, a lot of things I suffered that I didn't address through my accident and my history kind of all came at one time. And I was living in North Carolina at the time. I was on the streets, homeless for about 2 years, went through that struggle. I ended up later on building another $300 million company and grow sales out of a Dunkin' Donuts and utilizing their free Wi-Fi and kind of living out in the woods. I always said that when I got myself back into a better situation, that I would always find a way to give back to those, that have served and done so much for us, in addition to the homeless sector, which led me to what is most people know me as when I developed my speaking brand as the guy that runs across America. I started building a corporate social responsibility platform where I would run across America and sleep in homeless shelters or speak at specific facilities, talking about my story and trying to inspire those that need it the most, that couldn't pay the $300 ticket to get on top of a speaker platform and share my message of my pain and turn it into an opportunity to be positive. For me, I was kind of paying back my penance for my second chance at life. Later on, I started to learn. And I had a lot of survivor's guilt. A lot of guys I served with obviously toured over in Iraq and Afghanistan, didn't make it back. Started questioning a lot about why was it me versus them? Why did I get the second chance at life? Am I being worthy of that second chance at life? Am I doing all the things that I do to pay back for it? So that became a large part of my identity. So over the course of 3, 4 years, I ran about 11,000 miles, spoke in just about every state and city across the United States, shared a lot of things all the way from, the 9/11 memorial to the White House to, national TV outlets and Forbes, Fox Business, Stuart Varney, all kinds of different things that allowed me to kind of share my story, talk about the struggles I've went through and hopefully inspire more people. I ended up writing a couple of books and did pretty well about it, and it helped kind of define the moment of my transition of life. I was about probably in my 6th year is when COVID kind of came around and everything shut down. I wasn't able to run across America anymore, so I still wanted to get back and find a way to do something unique to bring that platform. So I started doing different world records. I did 4 different world records. The fastest marathon carrying 100 pounds, the fastest 1 mile carrying 100 pounds, the most push-ups in 12 hours, and the most push-ups in 1 hour. And I did that for different causes, to raise money for Gary Sinise Foundation or for National Purple Heart Honor Mission. Started doing a lot of things like that. And I share that with you as part of my story, not necessarily kind of defining the brand, but how it led to where we are in coffee today. I was very fortunate. My daughter was born, who's my best friend. And when she was about 6 years old, she decided she wanted to start a business. Now, a lot of kids say they want to go play soccer, they want to play football, they want to play basketball, they want to get into dance, they want to get into ballet. And of course, as parents, we spend a ton of money and time to jump into it for a lot of really great reasons. A lot of times we do it for the core values of understanding, leadership, team, hard work, commitment, what it is, what it's like to lose, what it's like to win, character defines a lot of things in children. And that's why sports does play such a huge role. But very few times do we as parents understand the return on investment on that. We'll spend a lot of money on those platforms, and only a few of the children will actually go off and say less than 3% or 1% become, high level athletes and see any kind of large type of monetary gain and ROI on that. So when my daughter said she wanted to start a business, now she had been with me on all these runs. She had been with me on stage ever since she was a baby. I'd always maximized so much time with her. I started to realize I had just written a book called Done by 2:30. Just finished up the last chapter. And the idea behind Done by 2:30 was a culmination of all the experiences of me running across America and doing all these things, realizing that we as Americans have failed to be exceptional CEOs of our house. We've learned to become perfect at being building relationship with the complete strangers. Corporations and companies have built models to specifically target how to get monetary exchange from a complete stranger, how to build a relationship and networking, how to go meet someone and have all this confidence. Yet we assume that the communication between our family, our partner, and our children is just something that we're good at, just because they're part of us or we've had, they're involved in our life every day. Not realizing communication is something that you have to work on. And it's not always easy to do. So when I started to learn more about this and getting executive leadership coaching, I realized, these companies were, hey, when's the last time you did a drip campaign to a customer? Everyone's so proud about it. When's the last time you wrote a thank you card? Oh, I wrote a thank you card. When's the last time you called that person 17 times to convert them into a sale? Oh, we definitely do that. And
Let
when you
me
would ask them,
let me
yeah, go ahead.
focus you, T. Shane. Your daughter wanted to be an entrepreneur. So we don't, given the time we have, to
Yeah.
pick up the story when she said she wanted to be an run a business.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what led to that was paying attention to my daughter wanting to start a business. So she decided she wanted to start a business, so we jumped into the coffee business. And we started roasting, developing, building, learning everything about it. She became a part of it. Fast forward, I went through a program for disabled veterans called the Arm to Farm program, learned a lot about hydroponics, saw that there might be a need for coffee to be grown hydroponically. And she and I delve into it. We started building and develop hydroponic coffee. And then we created the first indoor farm. We've had a harvest and we continue to lay the infrastructure to be able to support that platform to hopefully create farms throughout the United States.
Well, let me stop you here and ask you a question. Before we do anything else, where can people learn more about you and your coffee?
Yeah, all of our social media handles at Big Guns Coffee, our website, biggunscoffee.com and tshaneinspires.com.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to that a couple of times. But now, coffee gets its flavor from the ground, from the vines, etc. If you're taking it away from the ground, from the ground, uh, how do you get back in and create the flavor of the coffee that's unique for you?
Well, it's not necessarily, it's what's in the ground, not the ground itself. So you're basically, with hydroponics and the innovation of where it is today, you can mimic the nutrient mix to basically copy the same type of soil. So if you take a soil sample from, say, a farm in South America, and you take the ingredients in that soil sample and you match those on raw ingredients and you put it within the system, then in return, you can pretty much do the same thing. That's just one part of it. Also, the lighting and the factor that plays a part in the lighting that can to dictate the flavor profile of coffee as well.
So, okay, let's concentrate on that for a little bit. Let me ask you. So your daughter wanted to do it, and the two of you started to experiment. How do you experiment hydroponically? How do you grow successive crops? How does it work?
Well, the gist of it is, there's hydroponics have been around since the time of Babylon, so it's not anything new. It's just a matter of which system you prefer to choose. We went with an ebb and flow system, so a gravity pull system. And it was really because coffee has a larger root system, so we needed buckets that were bigger to be able to support it. So we started with that platform and started to grow it that way. I mean, we failed tremendously. I mean, it wasn't until about a year ago that we started to see some true success from it. But that was my strategy. It was not by design. It was by 100% accident. I just realized that the root system needed to be a little bit bigger, so we went with that system and eventually got it to work.
Okay. So now do you have product to offer the general public, or are you still experimenting?
Yeah, not yet. So we just pulled one of two of our very first harvests, and right now we're getting all the way through to the point to where we're going to determine which variety we really want to grow, because coffee has 134 different varieties. Right now we're just trying to show that it can work. The concept is there, and then of course we're in the stage of raising funds to expand and grow our farm. But we've proven concept. We've gotten the coffee. We've tasted it. It's all on the right pieces. We're moving in the right direction.
Is your daughter still interested, or has she found other interests?
Oh no, she does it all day, every day. I mean, she's literally most of the time she's on the podcast, she's on the TV shows, she does it all. She's homeschooled, so we do it always pretty much every day together.
Okay. Let's stop a minute and ask a question. Um, what is the benefit to your bonding with your daughter? Has it really helped you bond with her?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the reason why. It was a selfish reason. It was an opportunity to be able to spend as much time with her as possible. Again, due to seeing a lot of the homelessness, it was due to the fact that the families weren't taken care of in the beginning, and that was the byproduct of that. So this has allowed us to do a lot of really great things and maximize the time together to be able to talk about all of the accomplishments and share the experiences and travel and do all of that stuff. So it's almost kind of like a scrapbook in sense that we get to be a part of that, and that legacy continues to live on as long as we grow the business.
It just sounds. The reason I probe so much is because it sounds so great. Um, now I'll ask a loaded question. Are you still with your wife as a family unit, or when you say maximize your time together?
Yeah, so I never got married. So my daughter and mother and I were never married. When I maximize family time, it's specifically on being a father involved in my daughter's life.
Mhm.
So I obviously can't control all aspects of it, but I can control being a father and being involved in my daughter's life. So that's the part that I play right now.
Uh, it's a tough question I have to ask sometime because people
It's okay.
are good. Um, uh, this program is about small business, and obviously you have that little small business. What else are you doing to sop up your time?
Well, obviously, I'm a motivational speaker and executive leadership coach. So I work with certain companies to help develop their teams. I was doing that prior to this podcast, and I work with a company out in California that I help their teams become better in both, time management goals, just specifically on what they want to target on. So when I'm not doing these shows and prepping for our coffee side, we're working on the coffee farm. We have a small cafe. We run that. And we also do wholesale online orders, and of course, later this May, we launch in Walmart and Sprouts throughout the country. So we'll be working on that as well.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about teams for a minute. What do you think is the key to building successful teams?
Well, I like to take the Marine Corps approach to that. I think anytime, especially nowadays, it's hard to find somebody who's willing to get into the trenches with people. A lot of times when you're building a business, you're in a high level strategy session, you're looking on top of the mountain and you're trying to look at a vision that not everybody has because you independently have your own view of how things should go. But I think your people are the key component to everything. So if you can get down in the weeds with them and be transparent and share with them your vision and get them on board, more than likely you'll find that the team will move the same way that you do.
Well, let's stop a minute and just ask a question. The Marines, it's all volunteer. Well, the whole thing, but, but it's a fairly unique unit in the world. How do you translate what the Marines, where people want to be there, to people that have to be there because they need a salary? How do you transform the values in the Marines to leadership to a team who's not so much volunteer?
Well, I think I mean I think work is volunteer. I think just sometimes out of desperation, people choose it because of necessities of life. Marine Corps is really not that different. I mean, the Marine Corps takes people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, all demographics, poor, rich, overweight, underweight. It doesn't really matter, and they put you in one format. I mean, in anything, when you're pitching your company, you should talk about your culture. It's not always about money for a lot of people, contrary to what most people think. They want to be a part of something. And the Marine Corps has perfected that over 200 plus years. They perfected of what it's like to be a part of a family. And that's what a company is, right? A corporation is a person. I mean, the structure of the dynamic of the business is it's basically a mimic person of yourself, just with different legal responsibilities. And when you create a culture and you share with somebody your vision, a lot of times they're not coming on board because of what the pay is going to be. That's part of it. That's an expectation. They're coming on board because they want to be a part of something. So when you can share your vision and passion, and like-minded people see that, then you can start to build something.
But there seems to be a problem nowadays. Companies like Google, where some of the staff disagrees with what the leadership is doing by taking on defense work. How do you get them to buy into your vision?
Well, I think that all starts in the beginning too, and having clear, defined vision. So just like in any goal setting process, when we define our why and our purpose and our reason, and we're all like-minded, and we're constantly reminded of that. think sometimes when you talk about large companies, like Google, that gets lost in translation because there's so many different things moving. A small business, I think, is a lot easier. I mean, the backbone of America is built on small business.
Hmm.
Small business is nimble. They have the ability to be able to communicate more effectively. I think when you get too big, you're talking about shareholders then. That's not about employees. In a small business, they can, just like a Marine Corps unit, they're the smallest underfunded unit of all the branches. Small business works the same way. I think they have a more opportunity and more effectiveness to create an amazing culture in a small business versus a large corporation.
Um, um, and just in today's not even today's paper, just across my desk before this meeting came, turns out that the CEO of Goya Foods suddenly discovered himself out of a job after 20 years because because the board didn't like the fact that he supported Trump and more specifically dealing with child slave, child prostitution issues, which he's been very outspoken. How do you, when your leader becomes different than the rank and file, how do you help the rank and file understand that they have to just accept it? Is there, do you think there's good or bad ways of doing it?
I I think when you accept the responsibility as a leader, you accept the responsibility of all parties involved, and your views are irrelevant. I kind of stick maybe to a little older tradition of how business used to be in the sense that a business is not utilized for any type of format to talk about what you do out of work. When we're in the Marine Corps, we're only in the Marine. I may have my own views, I may think differently, but I'm part of a unit and a team. And at the time that I'm a part of that unit team, I'm functioning accordingly. I think with our leaders now, it's a little too glorified to talk about what your own personal views are. And I think, like in anything else, when you've got your uniform on, quote unquote, your suit tie, whatever it is, you're in the business of business on the business that you're working on. You're not in the business of talking about what you believe as far as outside that business. So I think maybe we've lost sight a little bit because of social media outlets and our individual expression. When you're a leader of people. You're not a leader of your own views. That defeats the purpose of your position. When you accept the responsibility to take that high level salary and that position, you are only in charge of one ship. Your views don't matter. Your views are only indicative to the people that you serve for, which is your staff and your employees.
Mm. Before we go further, websites where people can learn more about you and
Yes,
your
sir.
company.
Yep, biggunscoffee.com, tshaneinspires.com, and all social media at Big Guns or at T Shane Johnson.
Would you spell out T Shane for our audience?
Yes, sir. TSHANE Johnson.
Mm. Oh, I have to ask the question. How do you get a name like that?
Yeah, well, it's actually Timothy Shane, but considering when I started my speaker format, that the other Shane was a former KKK member that had turned into a speaker, I didn't want to compete against that in the Google search, so I figured T Shane might be a little better.
Hmm. Amazing what we do things because of the internet.
That's
Uh,
right.
we have just about a minute left. What would you like to leave our audience with?
I think look, we purchase pleasure for our inability to endure pain. And make pain your best friend. Learn that it's always going to be there no matter what, and that it can be an ally. Utilize it, make it a benefit, and just no matter what, never stop.
Well, on that note, T. Shane Johnson, we're going to say thank you for what to me was a great